One of the most enduring stories in human history is the journey of Odysseus, a tale that began being told nearly 3,000 years ago. But this is not simply the story of a king trying to return home after war. It is a narrative about the human mind, endurance, fear, temptation, and the endless struggle against fate itself. Odysseus was the king of Ithaca in the ancient Greek world. What made him different from other rulers was not physical strength, but extraordinary intelligence. In Greek tradition, his name was Odysseus, while in Roman sources he was known as Ulysses. Both names refer to the same legendary figure, whose story would become one of the foundations of Western literature. When the Trojan War began, Odysseus did not actually want to join. He had recently married Penelope and wished to live a peaceful life in Ithaca. According to some versions of the myth, he even tried to avoid the war by pretending to be insane, plowing his fields with salt instead of grain. However, this deception was uncovered, and he was forced to join the Greek alliance heading toward Troy. No one knew at the time that the war would last 10 years, or that the journey home would take another 10 years filled with unimaginable danger. During the Trojan War, neither side could achieve a decisive victory for a long time. The walls of Troy remained unbroken, and the Greek forces grew exhausted. It was here that Odysseus introduced the idea that would change everything: the Trojan horse. Massive wooden structure was built and left outside the gates of Troy, while the Greek army pretended to retreat. The Trojans, believing it was a sacred offering or a sign of victory, brought the horse inside their city. That night, Greek soldiers hidden inside the structure emerged, opened the gates, and allowed the army to enter. Troy fell from within. The war was over. But for Odysseus, the real journey had just begun. The voyage back to Ithaca was not a simple return. It was a punishment shaped by the will of the gods. In particular, Poseidon, god of the sea, held a deep hatred for Odysseus. From that moment on, the ocean itself became his enemy. Their first stop was the land of the Cicones. Odysseus and his men raided the city, but instead of leaving immediately, the soldiers stayed too long, driven by greed and celebration. This delay allowed the Cicones to regroup and counterattack, causing heavy losses. It was the first lesson of the journey. Even when Odysseus knew the right path, he could not always control his men. Next, they reached the land of the Lotus Eaters. The inhabitants offered a strange fruit, the lotus, that erased memory and desire. Anyone who ate it forgot their past and lost all interest in returning home. Odysseus had to force his men back onto the ships, saving them from a fate worse than death, the loss of identity. Soon after, they arrived at the island of the Cyclopes. There they encountered Polyphemus, a giant with a single eye. He trapped Odysseus and his men inside his cave and began to devour them one by one. Here, brute force was useless. Odysseus relied on intellect instead. He told Polyphemus that his name was Nobody, then blinded the giant while he slept. When Polyphemus cried for help, he shouted that nobody had attacked him, so no one came. Odysseus and his remaining men escaped by hiding under sheep. However, as they sailed away, Odysseus made a fatal mistake. He revealed his true name in pride. Polyphemus, son of Poseidon, prayed to his father for revenge. From that moment on, the sea itself turned against Odysseus. Their journey became a punishment without end. They later reached the island of Aeolus, the god of winds. Aeolus gifted Odysseus a bag containing all the winds, leaving only the west wind to guide him home. For a moment, Ithaca was within reach, but human weakness intervened. While Odysseus slept, his men opened the bag, believing it contained treasure. All the winds escaped at once, throwing the ships back across the sea. The journey had to begin again. Next came the land of the Laestrygonians, giant cannibals who destroyed most of the fleet by hurling massive rocks. From the cliffs, only Odysseus' ship survived. His crew was shrinking and hope was fading. Then they arrived at the island of Circe, a powerful enchantress. She welcomed the men with food and drink, but it was a trap. Those who consumed her offerings were transformed into animals, pigs, stripped of their humanity. Odysseus confronted Circe with divine protection given by Hermes. Unlike his men, he resisted her magic. Eventually, Circe was impressed by his will and helped him. She restored his men and even hosted them for a year, but Odysseus could not stay. Ithaca still called him. Circe instructed him to travel to the underworld to seek guidance from the dead. There, Odysseus witnessed a realm of shadows, lost souls, and forgotten heroes. He met the prophet Tiresias, who warned him of future dangers, especially the cattle of Helios, the sun god. If harmed, they would bring total destruction. Odysseus returned with this warning burned into his mind. Next, they passed the sirens, creatures whose songs lured sailors to their deaths. Odysseus ordered his men to block their ears with wax, while he himself was tied to the mast so he could hear the song without succumbing to it. It was a battle against temptation itself. Then came the deadly passage between Scylla and Charybdis, one side a six-headed monster, the other a giant whirlpool. There was no safe path. Odysseus chose the lesser loss, sacrificing 6 men to Scylla rather than losing the entire ship to the whirlpool. Leadership, in its harshest form, meant choosing who would not survive. But the greatest disaster was still ahead. On the island of Thrinacia, the cattle of Helios grazed under divine protection. Odysseus warned his men not to touch them, but hunger is stronger than fear. While Odysseus slept, his men killed and ate the sacred cattle. Helios demanded justice from Zeus. A storm was sent, destroying the ship and killing everyone except Odysseus. Now alone, he drifted at sea for days until he reached the island of Ogygia. There lived the nymph Calypso, who fell in love with him and kept him on her island. She offered him immortality and eternal life, but Odysseus refused. His heart still belonged to Ithaca. Years passed. Time itself seemed to dissolve. Eventually, the gods ordered Calypso to release him. Reluctantly, she obeyed. Odysseus built a raft and set sail again. But Poseidon struck one last storm, destroying it. He barely survived and washed up on the land of the Phaeacians. There, he was finally given aid. They listened to his story, gave him shelter, and prepared a ship to take him home. At last, Odysseus returned to Ithaca, but nothing was as he left it. His palace was filled with suitors who had taken over his home, consuming his wealth and demanding Penelope's hand in marriage. The king had returned, but disguised as a stranger. He entered his homeland in silence. No one recognized him. But silence does not mean peace. It means the beginning of reckoning. And after 20 years of war, loss, gods, monsters, and endless sea, Odysseus had finally come home.